Andrew Goldfarb from IGN. I have the pleasure of being joined by Charles Onyett. How are you, Charles?
The pleasure is all mine, Andrew.
And Charles, what are we watching today?
I believe we are watching, finally, new footage from Irrational's BioShock Infinite, which has been sort of in the dark for a long time. We haven't seen this game in a while.
Yeah, I believe the last full trailer was the VGAs, which is just about a year ago, which is hard to believe.
It's been a very long time. This game has basically been on media blackout. But yeah, if we want to go back to the start there, you know, we can start to pull some details from the trailer. I don't think anything throughout the trailer was too shocking in terms of new content or giant reveals, but you know, there is definitely some info hidden throughout here, and they do cut between scenes pretty quickly. Irrational, of course, the developer of BioShock 1, not BioShock 2.
Yeah, don't worry, everybody.
just for the record, although I really liked BioShock 2.
Yeah, BioShock 2 was a lot of good stuff.
So Booker Dewitt, as you can see the name on the box there, that we see in this boat sequence, that is the protagonist, and what you're trying to do in this game is find Elizabeth, a character who is confined in a floating city called Columbia, though it does have the BioShock name. You won't go back to Rapture. Andrew Ryan isn't a thing. This isn't like a prequel or anything.
No Big Daddies.
It is, well, as far as we know.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. No Big Daddies confirmed.
The whole second half of the game takes place in Rapture. No, I don't think so. So yeah, it's a separate story. It's a totally different thing, different set of characters. So you play as Booker Dewitt,
who loves in custom engraved boxes. You know, not a plastic bag for this guy.
It does say property of Booker Dewitt, but what this might be is when he was given the assignment to go find Elizabeth. This might be kind of the box he was handed or something like that has a couple hints and tools for what he's supposed to do. Obviously, he has a gun. Apparently, he'll need that.
And it looks like pictures of a younger Elizabeth to me. Like, it does look like, you know, he mentions that his goal was to bring back the girl and all your debts are forgiven or something like that. And, you know, that does seem to be, okay, he's coming for Elizabeth. You know, there's a thing there, it says Monument Island, which is a name of some location that we'll see again in a minute. It definitely seems like that's his task here.
And the key there, which may be to open something specific within Columbia, or may just be to open the city in general. That looks like an odd key just to have sitting around.
Yeah,
it has
for
a
sure.
giant bird cage on it, which may indicate Songbird, who is Elizabeth's protector, who we will see several times throughout the trailer. Whether this is actually the intro of the game or not, we don't know, but it does seem intro-like, because then we're sort of put through this sequence where it seems like Booker is first entering the city, and we get a nice overview of really what Columbia is.
It's almost reminiscent of like when you first descend down to Rapture in the original BioShock. I mean, this is like your first big look at the city. And actually, just to go back for 1 second, yeah, you mentioned that key. I mean, the first thing we see here is that he's opening a door. We don't know if he's used that key, but it is worth noting that this seems to be maybe access to the city for the first time.
Yeah, it is a floating city, though, so maybe they don't need to lock the doors. I don't know.
That's true.
It would be tough to get up there. If somebody got up there, then, you know, they would probably be able to get through a door anyway. They would probably have the tools to do so. But, I mean, what you do see in that opening scene, you see skylines going across the city. That is a way to transit between the city, which is comprised of all these different floating platforms that all have kind of unique architecture and citizens and things on them.
Yeah, it definitely seems to be divided between like multiple floating islands, it almost looks like, and you would assume those are the areas you'll travel between.
Yeah, I don't know how that's going to work specifically in terms of the flow of gameplay, if you can just go freely between all those, or if it really is more of a stage-based progression like was the case in the original BioShock.
And here in a second, you'll see that name Monument Island again. You see that hand kind of pointing the way. We don't know if that's maybe sort of like how you were navigating from bathysphere to bathysphere to get to the areas in the original BioShock. Maybe, you know, this is one example of an area you'll need to visit, one of the first locations you'll go to.
Yeah, so if it is that stage-based progression, then, you know, there would be a Monument Island stage or something like that. Also worth noting, you'll see a bunch of peaceful citizens walking around in this and the next clip that child is actually skipping across the ground there. And so this is sort of before things have really started to go crazy here, and really before the conflict ignites, I guess, where you'll be walking through Columbia in kind of a peaceful state before whatever happens.
Yeah, you have to assume that won't last long. This is interesting. So over to the right, you see that Light the Way. That's an advertisement for Devil's Kiss, which is one of the new vigors in the game, which are basically the system that's replacing plasmids. So these are like the special powers that you'll be getting. And that exact lithograph is actually the one you'll get if you buy the collector's edition. That's like a real thing that they're selling. More importantly, front and center, this is the Handyman. This is one of the heavy hitter enemies that they've shown off in the past. And we noticed earlier you have these two signs here, before and after. showing how, this is some kind of medical thing, that this guy was transformed from a normal dude into this kind of huge, grotesque handyman with the visible beating heart and the gigantic hands and tubing on his back.
And they seem to be actually advertising it. Like, you can see the press corps taking pictures. The sign behind him says, live forever with Betterman's auto bodies. The handyman, they're saying this is a great way to live. You should do this to yourself for some reason. Turn into a cyborg. It's awesome. And obviously the handyman is actually frightened in this case. He's not, this big, hulking, violent thing. He's actually timid and not really happy about being put up on stage as kind of an advertisement.
And here you get a couple more shots of kind of the peaceful version of Columbia.
Robo horse.
Yeah, horse is confirmed.
Steam horse.
and kid playing in water confirmed. Look at this ice cream shoppy you've got here. Very, very nice, relaxed setting. What do you make of these guys? What do you make of this? Is this a choir? You think it's some kind of religious group?
It's definitely some sort of strong spiritual element running through Columbia as well. Although I don't know exactly what they're gathered around. But again, they're all looking at you, so maybe you're not supposed to be in there, or they're recruiting you for some special purpose. But again, it's not really clear how much of the game is going to take place in kind of this pre-disaster or pre-event state, but there will, from the looks of things, there will be at least a little bit of exploration you can do to get a sense of the world before people decide to start shooting each other.
Yeah. And now is when the crap hits the fan.
And then people decide to start shooting each other.
So here's Elizabeth. As our own Mitch Dyer pointed out, she does have a different outfit, it looks like here. It's unknown when this takes place, when you're kind of in free fall with Elizabeth, but this is definitely different than the kind of corset that we've seen her in previously.
Yeah, and I mean, there was controversy before where people were basically saying Elizabeth is showing too much cleavage.
Yes.
That round of stories made it through the media sites a while ago. Not showing any cleavage here. She has been essentially covered up in this outfit, although it's not clear if that's her only outfit.
Exactly. And then in 1 second, you'll see, as far as we know, the main antagonist of the game, at least from what we've been shown so far, Songbird. This is Elizabeth's guardian. This is kind of the guy who is trying to get her back while you're trying to get her out of Columbia.
Yeah, and there seems to be a jealousy element there as they kind of grew up next to each other. He really does protect her and is not happy about the fact that you're trying to take her away. And he'll show up throughout various points of the game.
Mostly with that big scary eye is mostly how you see him.
Yep.
Here you get another look at the skylines, the skyhooks, in free fall, catching one as you're going.
Yeah, so the gameplay here, I mean, you can actually drop between, at least from what's been shown off before, drop between skylines. You can see a skyline actually running underneath there. So hopefully there's a decent amount of experimentation you can do there, and a lot of options you have for making combat more interesting by dropping between multiple skylines. So you get this really kind of fast-paced style of combat in addition to the on-foot stuff, which we see coming up.
Yeah, and then here you get, this looks like some kind of armored enemy. We don't know exactly who or what this is. This isn't one of the enemy types that's been shown before. It might just be a normal citizen of Columbia armored up and ready to shoot at you and kill you, basically. And of course, as Charles pointed out, the city behind him on fire. Nothing good is happening right now.
Yeah, this is after the conflict, so this is once people have really started going nuts. But I mean, what Irrational has said before is not everything, even after people really start fighting, not everything will necessarily attack you. You will still have some options to be friendly towards some things, or at least if you're not friendly, move past them without having to shoot them.
Yeah.
Obviously, this guy is angry.
Yeah, this guy is not a friend.
He's going to fire at you. It looks like he's also using powers there.
Yes, yeah, for sure. And you wonder if that fire came directly from him. It actually looks like it might have. Here, Songbird again. This tiny door not making him happy.
Yeah, and that seems like more of a scripted sequence too, where you would enter into that area, and this is going to happen regardless. So it's not really clear how dynamic the Songbird appearances are going to be, if they're something that just happens unexpectedly, or if it's something that happens always at a certain point along the line.
And then this guy not having a good day. This looks like some kind of, if you look at his badge, it says Columbia Security on it.
Yeah, I mean, they do have the faction warfare going on within Columbia, where there's a revolt going on against the founders, the Vox Populi.
Yep. And yeah, that's kind of what you've stepped into the middle of. Yeah, it's like this civil war between like you have these people who are the founders who kind of built Columbia. They're run by this guy named Comstock, and then you have these people who are rising up against them, led by this lady named Daisy Fitzroy, and they're called the Vox Populi. They're not happy. Very, very violent.
Yeah, and hopefully that does give Infinite a different kind of sense than what we've seen from Irrational and like System Shock 2 and BioShock, where you kind of arrive after something terrible has happened. In this one, you arrive while it's happening.
Yes. And,
or slightly before it.
This is an interesting thing too, that he's using the skyhook as a weapon here. Like as you know, this thing is very functional for travel, but also for murdering people by ripping out their eyes.
Yeah, they're not shying away from gore in this game. That's for sure.
Not at all. And this is the most kind of BioShocky combat that you see in this trailer. So this is Booker using one of these new vigors. This is using some kind of electricity-based one that I guess replaces the Electrobolt plasmid from BioShock. And it's interesting, if you go frame by frame here, you see that until he pulls it out, his hands are pretty much unscarred, look normal. And then as soon as the vigor takes effect, he's all scarred, and you know, there's electricity flowing through his hands, it's burning him. I think it's kind of interesting that you know, we don't know exactly how the vigor system is going to work, but it seems like it might harm you, you know, after too long to be using these.
Yeah, well, what's been shown off before is that Elizabeth, when she helps you out, because she will augment your powers in some ways, she will actually take physical damage from that, and you know, maybe that translates to you as well, where as you use these vigors, you know, you will also have some kind of negative physical effect, some kind of debuff, I guess. These don't work the same way as plasmids in BioShock, though, because you don't have like an Eve meter or something like that governing this. The amount of times you can use these is capped, so you have a certain number of uses for each vigor.
And it's based on the strength, so like if you have a really, really crazily strong vigor, you might only be able to use it once or twice, whereas a weaker one, you might have dozens of uses before it expires.
Yeah, and in this case, the use of the electricity here seems to be a stun, basically a disable, and then you can follow up with a pistol shot, as you can see here. Also dual wielding.
More skyhook combat.
Yeah, and it's cool that you can really do these kind of, that's almost like a Dishonored like drop attack from, because he was on the skyline and just basically hopped off and did this, attacking with the skyhook itself, and did this jump attack, essentially. So it seems like that there will be systems based, custom combat systems tied in around the skyhook combat.
For sure. Here Elizabeth helps you out, throws you a shotgun. Jumping right into combat here, you see a couple more armored enemies here. Again, we're not sure. You have to assume these are just kind of citizens. This guy seems like he has a little bit more ragtag armor put together, and he's painted red, which to me says that this is probably a member of the Vox Populi shooting at you right now.
Yeah, and we definitely see a lot of variety throughout this trailer of enemy types who aren't necessarily the big special enemy types, but more just, you know, ones you might run into more frequently. So maybe, yeah, we will see more variety amongst those common enemy types than we did in BioShock with the splicers.
Yeah, it seems like that's what they're harking back to. It's like that same idea that like you have splicers are kind of like the more generic enemies that are running around, not the big daddies, not kind of the special enemy types, but like there are different types of them basically. Then you see this flag here. It says Fink Manufacturer, that green flag down in the corner. It seems like that's going to be a very important business in this game, a very important group that you'll encounter. Fink is manufacturing some of the vigors that we've seen already, and in some of the kind of the earlier promotional material for this game, we saw the Fink manufacturer building. So you assume that Fink will play some kind of part in Columbia in this Civil War.
Yeah, it's going to be a pretty, he'll have a major role, or the company will, within the city itself and what you're trying to do.
Sort of as kind of a follow-up to like Ryan Industries and Fontaine Futuristics and all those businesses that you know you saw in advertisements in Rapture and then they played into gameplay. Maybe something similar here. And this is some more combat from on a skyline that you'll see in a second. Just hanging stationary and shooting at this guy is kind of interesting.
And you know, so something that I've noticed throughout this is that sometimes Elizabeth is with you, sometimes she is not. And what's not really clear yet is how often she really will be with you, and whether that is a very scripted thing or whether it's more dynamic. Because she does help out. I mean, she threw the shotgun earlier, but she also will augment your powers, and that could serve a huge advantage, I guess, in the right situation. So maybe you're only given her assistance in very specific situations, because for a lot of this, you're just running around by yourself.
Yeah, it looks like just Booker, exactly. And so you see here, as you're coming into this room, there's a guy shooting at somebody else, not you. And we don't know who this is or who they're shooting at, but just worth noting again, you're in the midst of this civil war. You know, you don't know if these people are necessarily going to fight you unless you provoke them because they're already distracted fighting each other.
Also, I believe that's an airship.
Yeah,
outside
some
the
kind of
window.
airship. And we don't know what this is or what faction it is or who it's related to. It is worth noting that it does kind of bear resemblance to Songbird. You know, maybe it has some kind of, you know, relation.
I'm just saying, hopefully you can get on the airship.
Yeah, hopefully. Another armored enemy type here who you get a pretty good look at. Very different armor than the all red that we saw earlier, and this seems to be, you know, maybe more of a real armor kit, but it's kind of hard to tell. So here you're seeing the Murder of Crows vigor, which is one of the first vigors they ever showed off in the first gameplay clip. And it's worth noting, if you go frame by frame, check out Booker's hand here. Again, it's having an effect on him. It looks like he has feathers, he has talons right now while he's using this thing. And this is sort of functionally similar to the insect swarm plasmid that you saw in BioShock. He kind of unleashes this murder, as it were, of crows straight towards enemies to kind of just screw with them and kill them.
And just to clarify, I mean, there were lots of specific graphical effects with plasmids in BioShock as well, but it's not clear if they have more of an effect on gameplay here, and they're not just for looks, basically.
Right, exactly. The question is whether or not these are harming you or transforming you in some way further than just you having these powers for a limited time.
Also, very BioShock-like element in the right of the screen. That is a turret. That pretty much looks directly out of BioShock. You fought those many times, and yeah, you basically shoot electricity at it to disable it. That is the best way to get rid of those. So you do still have the automated defenses here as well.
And we still haven't seen if there's any kind of hacking mechanic or anything like that, but you wonder how you'll be able to disable these turrets, whether you can make them fight for you. Yeah, exactly. Pipe game confirmed. Another shot of the Handyman here. It's worth noting that Irrational had a little vote process before this trailer was revealed for what enemies people wanted to see, which is kind of why you might be seeing a lot of the Handyman here. And once again, you're seeing Fink in the background. You see, if we back up a bit, you see that Fink advertisement with the guy in the hat who may be Mr. Fink. I don't think we're really quite sure yet. And then over to the side, you see that this is the Finkton Wharf shipping dock. So, I mean, I think this guy really clearly seems to have a pretty good, important role in Colombia.
Also using much heavier weaponry here. We had a lot of pistol and basic weapons, but here we see an actual full-on chain gun.
Yeah, and also this is a better look at the Handyman fighting you. I mean, he's no longer on stage being shown off. This guy is just trying to murder you at this point.
Yes, and his attitude seems to have distinctly changed from when he was cowering from a photo flash. Now he doesn't care about the fact that you're shooting at him with a minigun. So something happened. Not sure what yet.
So here, we actually think this may be the Fink manufacturer building that you're going towards right now. You see that statue of the guy in the top hat, kind of reminiscent of the ad that we just saw. And we've seen the Fink manufacturer building in kind of previous stills and images they've released. Now, I find it interesting that this guy in front of you, who's one of the armored enemies we saw earlier, you're almost running in the same direction he is. You know,
almost fighting alongside, yeah.
Yeah, it's not clear if you're fighting with him at this point, or if he hasn't noticed you yet, or what's going on. But
or
it's
again,
kind of
you're just kind of the third wheel. You're like, oh, hey guys, you seem to be fighting. Well, I'm just gonna walk over here now. Again, Elizabeth not present with you, so she, at least in this trailer, she does not figure prominently into the gameplay itself.
And here you see another look at, like, this is really, your hands are damaged here.
I mean, so this is more of the root of speculation, which we were talking about, whether it'll actually have a lasting kind of physical effect on you. Although maybe this is just strictly, you know, for Flash. It's like, you know, the first time you learn it, it just shows it off, and it's like, oh, hey, something's different. Here's a way to emphasize that by showing your skin falling off your fingers and your bones being exposed.
Yeah, that's pretty brutal. And again, like, we don't know if this is permanent, if this is just for show, but it's definitely interesting, like, seeing Booker this messed up by something. So this is an enemy that I don't think we've ever seen before.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure who this enemy is. He appears to have a coffin on his back.
Yeah, some kind of scary Undertaker guy.
Does not care about the crows flying around his head. Also a different environment type than we've seen so far, where it's much darker. You can also see organic growth around this place, so I'm not entirely sure where he is.
Also,
Although he is playing music. He's a fan of music.
That's true. He just wants you to sit down and listen with
So
him.
he's civilized, and then you just came in and you ruined his listening session.
It also looks like he may have people in cages up in the top corner.
Maybe they were listening to music.
Yeah, and you're just interrupting the concert.
It's like, I'm just hanging out with this coffin on my back, and you had to roll in with a machine gun. What's wrong with you?
That's actually a violin case, Charles. He's very misunderstood.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. A cello, actually. I
yes.
think that's more cello-sized.
But yeah, I mean, we don't know. This could be related to Songbird because you're seeing a cage. It could have nothing to do with it. We honestly have no idea.
Those cages, though, do very strongly resemble the key that you had at the start of the trailer. So maybe, you know, when you first do find Elizabeth or something like that, she's in one of those cages. Maybe that was, you know, the key that unlocks her. That would fit with the bird motif, the sky motif, I guess.
Another look at Songbird, gripping you by the throat underwater. Not a friendly guy, this Mr. Songbird.
Yeah, he can become severely agitated and also is enormous.
Yes.
He appears to be much, much larger than anything else you encounter in the city. And this is a boy of silence. Apparently functions as kind of a mobile security alarm, although definitely in this case seems to be draining the saturation, the color, I guess, from the environment.
Yeah, we're not sure exactly what effect he has on you, but definitely nothing good. You know, they call him one of the heavy hitters. Clearly, he's not going to be any kind of friend to Booker.
But yeah, it's not entirely clear what he's doing here, but it's not good.
Yes, exactly.
I would venture to guess that he is doing something bad.
But Charles, thank you very much for joining me. And for everyone else, for all of your BioShock news and information, keep it locked to IGN.